Very excited to bring this series of webinars to you over the next 8 weeks. And we have two really cool speakers that I think you're going to enjoy today, who are going to talk to us about what they do every day. And this will be our first session on understanding a little bit more about what happens in the corporate world in the IT business. So today we have two speakers. We're going to start with Andre Wayman, who is here with us from WritePad Credit Union. And he is going to talk about the role of IT technician and end user support. And then at 3:30, we are going to have Woody Horton talk to us. And he will be talking to us also from WritePad Credit Union. Thank you guys for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. And Woody is going to talk to us about support specialists and what they do within a company. So for everybody listening today, I would ask that you write down your questions so that we can have a dialogue at the end of their presentation and ask them a little bit more in detail based on what we've heard about what they do and what their jobs are like, and maybe what the education was that led up to the work that they're doing each and every day. So once again, welcome everybody. We are really glad to have you here. And I am going to, without further ado, turn it over to Andre to take us away.
Thanks, appreciate it. If you don't mind, I will actually share my screen. I have just a PowerPoint presentation set up and ready to go. And then just let me know if everybody can see this. Everybody can see that okay?
Not yet, Andre.
Okay, I'm going to try sharing my screen again.
There we go. Here it comes.
Sorry, first time using Zoom, by the way. So just trying to figure it out as I go. We mostly use team meetings.
Lucky you.
All right, so let's go ahead and get this started. My name's Andre Wayman. I work for WritePad Credit Union. I'm considered a service desk technician. I guess you consider it the lowest on the totem pole, but we do kind of jack of all trades here. So we work with multiple different departments to get whatever various needs for the organization done. So what exactly do we do? Like I said, a lot of different things based on the day. They can do Windows account unlocks, password changes. We do installs of PCs, printers, scanners, different peripheral equipments, keyboard and mice, anything that they really require and that we can actually provide to get them set up in cubicles, offices, member center builds. We also do on-site repair, whether that be tablets, desktops, laptops, anything that we can technically do on site. We'll also work with third-party vendors sometimes, depending on if we have warranties for certain devices, such as the desktops or laptops. With Dell specifically, we work with a lot. So just as an example, if a camera is going bad on a tablet and we get a call or a service desk ticket or an individual stating that the camera is blurry or maybe just isn't working at all, we'll try our best to troubleshoot it on the spot. And if it comes down to like a hardware issue and that device is under warranty, we do call up Dell, go through their whole entire warranty process, just like any user would. The only difference being that some of our devices are under a pro warranty support. So in those cases, we can either have the Dell certified technicians come out on site, which are usually contractors, to repair those devices. Or if we can handle it, we'll just request, maybe like the camera itself or a keyboard or a battery just to be sent out to us, and we can pretty easily open it up and take it apart and repair it. We also do member center builds. So to get an idea of like kind of how big we are for WritePad, we have roughly about 30 member centers. The member centers just being like an actual physical bank you go to. Sometimes their layouts are a little bit different for other locations, but for the most part, they have a walk-in service where you can go up to a teller line, get various services by the financial coaches there. They do have offices in those settings, back areas that they work into. So sometimes we're responsible for setting up new member centers, or maybe outfitting, or going back and maybe repairing a few things, or refurbishing them with new equipment. It all depends on the type of project. We also handle a lot of deployments, especially with COVID over the past year or so. That's been a major change in how a lot of different companies work. For us specifically, that just involved a large portion, I would honestly say about 90% or more of our whole entire credit union at the corporate location and member centers and remote users all being pushed out with tablets, various different Wi-Fi devices so that they can work over the VPN at home. That was a very big undertaking. We have roughly about 1,000 employees that work. So like we can just say maybe 800 or so. That involves multiple different types of equipment too, monitors, keyboards, cameras, anything that they might need for at-home use. And then we also have to support that role too. So typical day, usually for my role specifically, Mondays are probably the busiest, and especially the mornings. It's mostly people coming in off the weekend. They forgot their password. They can't get into a program. They can't get logged in. They'll give us a call. We do operate on a call queue system. So that's just an incoming ACD line where we just take the next available call, and then we try to help them out as much as we can. And if need be, if we can't resolve it, we do have an escalation process, or if it needs to go to a different team, we can also provide assistance with that. Going past that, we do, like I said, support a lot of remote support as of today. A lot of people are transitioning either to like a hybrid now that COVID is technically calming down. I would say about it's half and half, or that's the goal at least, where a lot of departments are considered hybrid, where they can work back and forth. So they might have a tablet where they come back out on site for maybe 2 days out of the week. They'll have a docking station that they hook up to, and then they jump on the network and then can work off of some monitors and keyboard and mice. And then at the end of the day, they just go home and maybe the next day work remote. But they have that opportunity or that position to do so. So the type of work environment that we do, we are, at least in my role, we are at the corporate location, which is a fairly large building. So majority of the time is spent on site here, but we are responsible also for supporting member centers. So out of those 30 plus member centers, if something happens at that member center, maybe a printer is not working or a PC is not working, or we have to replace something, we will have to go out on site and help out with those. That can also be cubicles, offices, it doesn't matter. We do also work in data closets a lot. We also work with ATMs, PTMs, anything that you traditionally see at a normal bank, we probably have some hand in, or we have to work with a different department to do so. With that being said, like I said, we do have to work with a lot of different departments, such as like security or networking team, where they specialize more in day-to-day stuff that we don't have access to, sometimes for security reasons. And then also going back to third-party vendors, we frequently work with Dell. We do have like a printer company that we work with as well, that all of our printers are considered under warranties, and they service those if anything goes wrong. For mine specifically, my position, I am paid hourly. For most other departments, they are salary. We usually work about an 8 to 5 business hour. Sometimes that can change. We do open up at technically 7:30, and then we have someone here till 6:30. Those hours are change greatly depending on the need, and not every day is the same. So we generally work 8 to 5. There is a lot of, especially right now with COVID, there is a lot of potential for overtime and weekends. frequently having to work after hours, or if something breaks, then we're expected to be on call. So we do have to support that role as well. As far as experience and education goes, to start out with, when I was really young, I used to tinker around with PCs, taking them apart. I was really into gaming at the time, so that was like a major striving goal before I even thought about in the future potentially getting into any type of service desk role or anything further down the line. That was one thing that gave me a lot of experience with helping out like friends and family, trying to fix weird issues or requests from them. Early on, around high school time, I did work at McDonald's. That gave me, honestly, even though as much as I hated it, it gave me a lot of good experience in general working with customers. Because if I looked back at doing things now and jumped straight into the service desk role, it would be extremely difficult. My job, there's a lot of good people out there, but you still have some that make your day-to-day job or whatever you're trying to do difficult. So definitely working at McDonald's. And then also I think I worked at Domino's for maybe a year doing delivery pizzas. That some strange things can happen. I did do a little bit of college. I didn't actually finish college, but I did do community college for a bit. I took a lot of classes online, and based on my schedule, I just wasn't able to complete it. It's not something I've gone back for yet, but I do prioritize certifications over college. So that's something I'm currently striving for. Starting out on the technical side of the field for my work experience, I did work at a very small computer repair shop. Small being I only had one other technician that I worked with, and the building itself was very small as well, and we only took mostly off the street customers. These would be usually partners having issues, like older folk that didn't really understand technology, viruses, malware removal. We did hard drive replacements, reloading operating systems. It was honestly a good company to work for at the time, just getting my feet wet in the business. But that definitely helped me later down the line. After that, I did work in a call center environment. If you guys are familiar with Reynolds and Reynolds, they do like a dealership kind of software. They're actually a very large company that works all over the US and Canada, a little bit over in the eastern side of things too. But for the most part, they provide support for their software at dealerships whenever you're buying a car. So if you bought a car before, chances are, especially if it was a new one or a pretty big dealership, they probably had Reynolds software running in the background, and that allowed them to do various different types of things. But in my role over there, we provided support for the customer. So it was working for Reynolds. We didn't do in-house IT. It was all remote support. So somebody would call in, they would have an issue with our software. We would try to resolve that issue. Later on, about a year into things over there, I did start to transition into a backline role. So like, I guess your general like tier 2, tier 3. And we worked closely with field engineers that would be local to that area. So if, for example, there was, since it spanned over the whole entire US and we're just a call center in the Dayton area in Ohio, there could be one in California for a major Ferrari dealership. And if they had something wrong with their servers, we would work with the field engineers that were in that local area to replace hard drives on a server, do data backups. There's a lot that goes into things that you don't typically see. Also, just in general, I help out friends and family a lot, just doing general setup stuff, which I'm sure at least some of you have experienced all at some point, setting up your phones, setting up printers, all that comes into play and honestly helps out with the service desk role. As far as the certifications that I have currently, just in CompTIA A+ certification, that's just a general service desk certification that most companies will look for the most part. And all that is essentially telling them is, you know, what a computer is. You know what printers are. You know what Windows operating system is. You can work with phones if you need to. It is a very general certification that covers a lot of different bases. And if you're ever interested, you can look online. Generally speaking, they have 2 tests that you have to take for it. They are kind of expensive, so about $200 last time I looked. That might have gone up, but most companies, especially if you start there and at a early train role, they will try to cover those tests, which is very nice, especially because if you fail, you will have to pay that price again. So as long as the companies are okay with it, they usually cover the first time you go to help out, especially at RightPad. They do cover those and any other certifications that might apply to your field. A couple things I wish I knew when I first started out was definitely going back to what I said earlier, the customer service experience. It is a lot of that transitioned into, even though RightPad is a very internal, we do internal IT work. So just meaning that we don't talk to members outside that use the banking system. We don't troubleshoot with them at all. It is all internal IT. So we help out the employees that work for RightPad. The nice thing about this is most of them are understanding when something happens. They're all on the same team. So my suggestion is when looking for a job in this type of field, you can do the call center route, but it would be very beneficial to look for a company that has internal IT, because most of the people are very understanding and they're willing to help you out, especially team members on your own department. Couple things. I like to help out a lot of people. So just throwing this out there for your guys' sake, I wanted to add a couple things that even if you do know about this, you can kind of ignore this, but this might be some useful information for you, or pass it along. I enjoy learning new things, so I'm constantly looking out for stuff like this. Snipping tool, very useful Windows feature that a lot of people know about, but if you didn't know, there is a shortcut key for it. You can hold down the Windows Shift and S key all at the same time. It does pop out a little snipping tool that you can then click and drag around anything you need to. And using this, you can help describe certain screens that you might look at, as far as like error screens that somebody may be asking you about. Rather than taking a picture with your phone and trying to send it over to them, I find it very useful to take that snipping tool, save that as a screenshot. You can paste it into Paint, Word, anything you want to, and then you can even email out it if you want to. It's very useful, and I use it every single day. So I would highly recommend, even if you can't remember that shortcut key, you can always search for it in the bottom left of the Windows area and just type in snipping tool, and then you can even pin that to your taskbar. Another thing that I use a lot is the clipboard feature, which by default, I don't believe it's set as enabled on Windows. So if you ever are interested in it, you can always type in clipboard in the bottom left of your search bar, and then pull up the clipboard settings. And then you just need to turn it on. And then anytime you go to copy anything, it saves it to that clipboard. And then if you hold down the Windows key and then hit the V as in Victor key, it can pull up a master clipboard list of the past, we'll just say 20 or so. And then you can pull out even old copy and paste that you might have done before and forgot about or closed out of those windows. Another one that I highly recommend all the time, especially when I'm remoting into other employees' PCs, trying to help them out, is the Windows Snap feature. Not a lot of people know about that. If you ever need to use this, it's great for multitasking. You can, at the very top of your screen, so if you have an open window, just click and drag that so you can move it around, drag it to the far right or the far left of your monitor, and you'll see a little pop-out window that it will go from top to the bottom. And then when you let go, it will snap to that side of the screen. You can then choose another program on the left side. And I find it very useful for when I'm researching different things, to keep 2 windows open up, and you can even resize those with using the little arrow key in the middle of them. Another useful one is the undo feature, which almost everybody knows about. Control C for copy, Control V for paste, but there is a Control Z to undo whatever you just messed up. So keep that in mind when you are trying to paste in something, accidentally type over it. You can always do Control Z and undo that. And then always, 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 Google is your friend. I use it every single day. When people call in, believe me, I don't have all the answers. So when I'm looking at something for the very first time, I will Google it and I will get on some forum posts. I will research a little bit, and then I might even get back with that particular partner, trying to figure out whatever is happening. Maybe there was a recent update for that program that I didn't know about that they just threw out there and broke something. Forum posts are key, and Google is your friend. If I was to give advice to anybody getting into the field for the very first time and they have limited to no knowledge, find an old PC. There's plenty of companies that just throw away full build PCs, even though they're old. You can definitely get a hold of one of those, or even ask your friends or family if they're getting rid of theirs, and just open it up. Take a screwdriver, flathead, whatever you need to, open it up, take a look inside, see how the hard drive's connected, see the system board. Maybe try to figure out what was wrong with it if they are throwing it away. Was it a system board malfunction? Maybe blown capacitors on the system board? Maybe something swollen? You can certainly outfit it with whatever you want to. PCs are very usable in the sense that you can swap out any components, and for the most part they will work. Again, Google being your friend, you can find out real quick if something isn't compatible with a system board, for example. But starting out, definitely highly recommend just opening up a PC, seeing how it works, asking questions for friends and family. If they know somebody that knows a lot more about it, feel free to ask them about it. I'm sure they'd be willing to help out. Another useful tool, which you would kind of have to dive into on your own. There are plenty of different VMs out there. All a VMware box is a virtual machine. For the technical side of things, all it does is it builds out a fake PC within your PC. So if you ever are scared to touch anything or break anything, you can always build and download a VM box, and then you can create essentially a fake PC that you can do whatever you want to with. And I found this very useful early on, learning how certain things work in Windows. You can even do Linux, anything you want to, and you can create anything you want to. So I find it very useful if you ever get into again, online forums, also super useful, just Googling. But if you find maybe an issue with Outlook or Excel, or maybe it's crashing constantly and giving you a weird error message, there are lots of other people out there with the same exact issue you are having. So it is very useful to find a legitimate forum, and you don't necessarily have to create an account on there, but there are plenty of other people out there that have had the same exact issue, that have the same exact questions, and usually there's someone out there willing to help out. As far as that goes, that's the end of the presentation. If anybody has any questions, feel free to yell them at me. I am willing to answer whatever I can.
Thank you so much. This is such a great information, great tips and advice. I do have one other question for you. I know you get users from 18-year-olds who have just started at the company to 55, 60-year-olds senior management, and you have to support them all. What is the one thing that you wish the end user knew? When you, I'm sure you get the same questions over and over again. Is there something that you wish they just knew how to do and they could do it on their own if they just knew?
Yeah, a lot of people I've found aren't patient, and understandably, they get in for the day, they just want to work. Something doesn't work right off the bat. They're not willing to troubleshoot. And honestly, a lot of the things come down to either a reboot of the PC. As funny as that is, it works a lot of the time because there's a lot of different things going on in the background that a reboot will fix. Another thing is just asking order of operations. Whenever I am trying to get to the root of a problem, I know I'm not getting the full story when they're describing the issue. So I will generally ask questions, even though they may be a little frustrated hearing the same questions reordered. I try to get to the bottom of, okay, your PC isn't turning on. Did something happen yesterday? Was it working yesterday? Was there a power outage maybe in the area last night? Bad storms? Are you getting any lights on the PC? Because one of the first things they're going to tell you is it's just not powering on. It's like, okay, well, what exactly is not working on it? Is it clicking? Is it making any noises? Is anything else working on that power strip that it's plugged into? So if I was to say something that I wish other people knew from all different types of ages or experience levels, it's slowing down and asking the correct questions, which a lot of it is just experience and getting a feel for that particular person that you're working with too.
Andre, I've got a quick question for you. If
Yeah.
you could, I heard what you recommended around the certificate, the CompTIA A+ certificate. For young students who are in high school right now, preparing to enter an IT support role or wanting to enter an IT support role, what other certificates would you recommend for them?
You could get into like networking. I'm sure Woody will talk on it a little bit for the networking side of things, but the Network Plus is also pretty big. CompTIA is generally recognized by a lot of different companies. You can go on their website and find lots of different certifications. The security one is a big one too. A lot of companies will look for that because you will have some role in the security side of things. For example, we work with Windows accounts all the time. So even though we're just doing unlocks or we're just doing password changes, the security side of things still come into play there, where the more you know, the easier it is for you to determine what the problem is. So I would highly recommend just going to CompTIA's website, looking at some of the beginner intro level stuff like A+. That is honestly the biggest one. But all the other ones, such as like the networking and security, those also help infinitely during your troubleshooting.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks for giving us a great kickoff, Andre. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.